I have more respect for a man who lets me know where he stands, even if he's wrong.
We always said in Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
New Nubian. Financial Literacy and Personal Budgeting. Presented by Dr. Jonah Sanders. Course Objectives. To equip young adults with essential financial skills, including budgeting, saving, credit management, and understanding banking and taxes, empowering them to make responsible financial decisions. Course Outline. Module 1, Budgeting and Saving Basics. Module 2, Credit and Debt Management. Module 3, Banking, Taxes and Financial Planning Tools. Module 4, Review and Reflection. Course Syllabus. Module Topic Time Learning Objectives. 1. Budgeting and Saving, Income, Expenses, Goals, 20 minutes learn to create and follow a budget. 2. Credit and Debt, Scores, Responsible Use, 20 minutes understand credit and avoid bad debt. 3. Banking and Taxes Accounts and Basics, 15 minutes manage bank accounts and grasp taxes. 4. Review and Reflection, Planning and Sharing, 5 minutes commit to healthy financial habits. Module 1. Budgeting and Saving Basics. Introduction to Budgeting. Objective: build a foundational understanding of what a budget is. Topics covered. Definition of a budget, simple and formal perspectives. Historical background, budgeting in households versus organizations. The role of budgeting in personal finance and everyday decision-making. Activities. Group discussion, what comes to mind when you hear the word budget? Short reflection, list your own monthly income and expenses. The psychology behind budgeting. Objective: understand why budgeting is not only financial but also behavioral. Topics covered. Spending habits and human behavior. Common psychological barriers to budgeting. The role of self-control and delayed gratification. How budgeting reduces stress and increases confidence. Activities. Self-assessment, are you a spender, saver, or balanced? Quiz. Case study, someone without a budget versus someone with a budget. Components of a budget. Objective: learn the essential building blocks of a budget. Topics covered. Income sources, salary, side income, passive income. Fixed expenses, rent, utilities, subscriptions. Variable expenses, food, transportation, entertainment. Savings and investments. Emergency fund allocation. Activities. Worksheet, categorize given list of expenses into fixed/variable/savings. Why budgeting matters for financial health. Objective: recognize the long-term importance of budgeting. Topics covered. Avoiding debt and financial emergencies. Achieving short-term and long-term goals. Financial independence and retirement security. The compounding effect of savings. Activities. Group brainstorm, what could go wrong without a budget? Create a list of 3 personal financial goals. Different types of budgets. Objective: explore the various budgeting methods and find the best fit. Topics covered. Zero-based budgeting. 50/30/20 rule. Envelope system. Priority-based budgeting. Digital budgeting tools. Activities. Interactive demo of a budgeting app. Compare budgeting styles for different personalities. Step-by-step guide to creating a simple budget. Objective: learn the process of setting up your first budget. Topics covered. Step 1, calculate net income. Step 2, track current spending. Step 3, categorize and set spending limits. Step 4, allocate savings. Step 5, review and adjust. Activities. Participants create a draft budget based on a sample monthly income. Common budgeting mistakes and how to avoid them. Objective: identify and prevent pitfalls in budgeting. Topics covered. Underestimating expenses. Not tracking small purchases. Being too rigid or too loose with budget limits. Forgetting irregular expenses, e.g., annual insurance. Activities. Spot the mistake exercise with a sample faulty budget. Maintaining and reviewing your budget. Objective: learn how to keep your budget effective over time. Topics covered. Monthly budget review practices. Adjusting for lifestyle changes. Tracking progress toward goals. Using technology for monitoring. Activities. Set reminders for a budget check-in in a calendar. Budgeting for life stages and situations. Objective: understand how budgets change with life events. Topics covered. Student/early career budgeting. Budgeting for a family. Budgeting in retirement. Handling job loss or income drops. Activities. Role play: adjusting budget after a sudden income change. From budgeting to financial freedom. Objective: link budgeting to bigger life aspirations. Topics covered. How consistent budgeting builds wealth. Transitioning from budgeting to investing. Aligning your budget with values and life purpose. Budgeting as a lifelong habit. Activities. Write a financial mission statement. Final Q&A and commitment exercise. One budgeting change I'll start today. Introduction to tracking finances. Objective: understand the concept of tracking income and expenses. Topics covered. Why tracking matters in personal finance. How tracking differs from budgeting. Explanation. Tracking is the recording step before budgeting. Without knowing where money comes from and where it goes, budgeting is guesswork. Activities. Quick survey: how many participants know their exact monthly expenses? Discussion: why do people avoid tracking? Understanding income sources. Objective: learn to identify and categorize all forms of income. Topics covered. Primary income, salary/wages. Secondary income, freelancing, bonuses, side hustles. Passive income, investments, rent, royalties. Explanation. Income tracking should be comprehensive, not just the monthly paycheck. Activities. List all possible personal income sources. Exercise: categorize provided examples into primary, secondary, passive, irregular. Understanding types of expenses. Objective, learn how to categorize spending. Topics covered. Fixed expenses, rent, utilities, insurance. Variable expenses, food, fuel, entertainment. Periodic/annual expenses, car registration, subscriptions. Discretionary versus non-discretionary. Explanation. Categorizing helps reveal where adjustments can be made. Activities. Group activity, sort expense slips into categories. Methods for tracking finances. Objective, explore different ways to record and monitor finances. Topics covered. Manual tracking, notebooks, ledgers. Spreadsheet tracking, Excel, Google Sheets. Mobile apps, Mint, Inab, Pocket Guard. Bank statement analysis. Explanation. Choose a method that's easy to maintain, consistency matters more than complexity. Activities. Live demonstration of a basic spreadsheet tracker. Setting up a tracking system. Objective, build a personal tracking system. Topics covered. Recording income daily/weekly. Logging expenses immediately versus batching entries. Deciding on categories and subcategories. Backing up records for safety. Explanation. The simpler your system, the more likely you'll stick to it. Activities. Create your own tracker, paper or digital, during the session. Accuracy and honesty in tracking. Objective, learn the importance of recording all transactions accurately. Topics covered. Common mistakes, forgetting small expenses, rounding numbers. The latte factor, small expenses add up. Reconciling with bank statements to catch errors. Explanation. Missing even small amounts distorts your financial picture. Activities. Case study, compare an accurate versus incomplete expense log. Analyzing income versus expense data. Objective, interpret the tracked data to identify patterns. Topics covered. Surplus versus deficit months. Spending categories with highest outflow. Income fluctuations and their effects. Monthly and quarterly reviews. Explanation. Tracking isn't just about collection, it's about insight. Activities. Participants analyze a sample monthly tracker and highlight overspending areas. Adjusting behavior based on tracking. Objective, use tracking insights to make real changes. Topics covered. Reducing non-essential spending. Redirecting surplus toward savings/debt repayment. Adjusting budget categories over time. Planning for irregular expenses. Explanation. Tracking is pointless if you don't take corrective action. Activities. Each participant identifies one expense category to reduce by 10% next month. Using technology for smarter tracking. Objective, learn to automate and improve tracking with tech. Topics covered. Linking bank accounts to apps. Expense categorization AI tools. Alerts and reminders for overspending. Data visualization for trends. Explanation. Automation reduces effort and increases accuracy. Activities. Demonstration, generate charts from tracking data. Making tracking a lifelong habit. Objective, maintain tracking consistently for financial success. Topics covered. Daily, weekly, monthly check-ins. Turning tracking into a routine, habit stacking. Tracking progress toward financial goals. Integrating tracking with budgeting and saving plans. Explanation. Like fitness tracking, finance tracking only works long-term if it becomes second nature. Activities. Write a personal finance tracking commitment statement. Final Q&A and discussion of success stories. Introduction to saving goals and emergency funds. Objective: understand what saving goals and emergency funds are and why they matter. Topics covered. Definition of saving goals. Definition of emergency fund. Why saving is crucial for financial stability. Explanation. Without goals, savings lack direction. Without an emergency fund, life's surprises can derail financial plans. Activities. Quick discussion: what's the difference between saving for a vacation and saving for emergencies? The psychology of saving. Objective: explore mental barriers and motivators for saving. Topics covered. Instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Emotional security from having savings. Common myths: I'll save when I earn more. Mindset shifts for consistent saving. Explanation. Saving is not just math, it's behavior and discipline. Activities. Self-reflection: write down one time you regretted not having savings. Types of saving goals. Objective: learn how to categorize and prioritize savings. Topics covered. Short-term goals, 0 to 2 years, e.g., vacation, gadgets. Medium-term goals, 2 to 5 years, e.g., buying a car, education. Long-term goals, 5+ years, e.g., house purchase, retirement. Explanation. Categorizing prevents mixing emergency funds with goal-based savings. Activities. Exercise: convert a vague goal, I want to save for a trip, into a SMART goal. How to calculate your saving goals. Objective: learn the math behind setting targets. Topics covered. Determining goal cost. Deciding time frame. Calculating monthly saving requirement. Adjusting based on income changes. Explanation. Clear numbers turn dreams into actionable plans. Activities. Example: goal cost equals $1,200, time frame equals 12 months, save $100 per month. Understanding the emergency fund. Objective: deep dive into emergency fund purpose and scope. Topics covered. What qualifies as an emergency expense? Difference between emergencies and irregular expenses. How an emergency fund prevents debt. Explanation. An emergency fund acts as a financial shock absorber. Activities. Group brainstorm, list what counts as a real emergency. How much should you have in an emergency fund? Objective: learn to calculate emergency fund size. Topics covered. Standard recommendations, 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Adjusting for personal risk factors, job stability, health, dependence. Tiered approach, starter fund, then full fund. Explanation. The amount varies by lifestyle and risk level, one size does not fit all. Activities. Calculate your own emergency fund target using monthly expenses times months. Strategies for building savings consistently. Objective: learn practical ways to save without feeling deprived. Topics covered. Paying yourself first. Automating transfers. Saving windfalls and bonuses. Cutting leak expenses, small, frequent, unnecessary costs. Explanation. Consistency matters more than amount in the beginning. Activities. Identify one expense you could cut to save more this month. Where to keep your savings and emergency fund. Objective: understand safe and effective storage options. Topics covered. High-yield savings accounts. Money market accounts. Avoiding risky investments for emergency funds. Accessibility versus temptation, balance needed. Explanation. Emergency funds must be liquid and safe, not tied to volatile markets. Activities. Compare interest rates of local banks for savings accounts. Tracking and reviewing savings progress. Objective. Learn to monitor and adjust savings plans. Topics covered. Monthly progress check-ins. Adjusting contributions based on life changes. Celebrating milestones without sabotaging progress. Explanation. Tracking builds motivation and ensures you stay on target. Activities. Use a sample tracker to plot savings growth over 6 months. From saving goals to financial security. Objective. Integrate saving habits into a lifelong financial plan. Topics covered. How savings feed into investments. Linking goals to life values and priorities. Building resilience for both opportunities and emergencies. Explanation. Once saving becomes routine, you can focus on wealth building. Activities. Final commitment exercise. Write your top saving goal and emergency fund plan for the next year. Introduction to budgeting tools. Objective. Understand why tools matter in budgeting. Topics covered. The purpose of using tools, accuracy, consistency, and control. Manual versus digital budgeting tools. Overview of apps, spreadsheets, and the envelopes method. Explanation. Budgeting tools help you track and manage money, making financial discipline easier. Activities. Group discussion. Who here has tried any budgeting tool before? What worked, what didn't? Budgeting apps, overview. Objective. Learn what budgeting apps do and how they work. Topics covered. Features, expense tracking, goal setting, alerts. Examples, Mint, in-app, you need a budget, PocketGuard, good budget. Explanation. Apps are powerful because they update automatically and categorize spending. Activities. Demonstration, walk through a sample budgeting app dashboard. Choosing the right app. Objective. Match the right app to the right user needs. Topics covered. Criteria, ease of use, customization, cost, device compatibility. Pros and cons of free versus paid apps. Privacy and security considerations. Explanation. A good app should fit your lifestyle and not overwhelm you with complexity. Activities. Compare 3 app screenshots and decide which is best for different personalities. Setting up your first app-based budget. Objective. Practice creating a digital budget from scratch. Topics covered. Linking accounts or entering manually. Creating spending categories. Setting limits and goals. Reviewing weekly summaries. Explanation. The first setup is the hardest, after that, automation takes over. Activities. Participants set up a sample budget using a trial app or demo mode. Budgeting with spreadsheets, why it works. Objective. Learn why spreadsheets are still one of the most flexible tools. Topics covered. Excel and Google Sheets basics for budgeting. Advantages, full control, customization, no subscription costs. Explanation. Spreadsheets offer manual control and customization for users who like detail. Activities. Review a simple monthly budget spreadsheet template. Building a spreadsheet budget step by step. Objective. create a personalized spreadsheet tracker. Topics covered. Columns for date, category, description, amount. Formulas for totals and balances. Explanation. A well-made spreadsheet can replace most budgeting apps if used consistently. Activities. Hands-on, build a basic budget in Google Sheets using provided data. The envelopes method, old school but effective. Objective, understand and apply the cash-based envelope system. Topics covered. Physical envelopes for each spending category. Rules, once the envelope is empty, spending stops. Explanation. The envelopes method makes money limits visible and tangible. Activities. Practice, allocate, mock cash into envelopes labeled with categories. Digital envelope budgeting. Objective, apply the envelope method in a modern, cashless world. Topics covered. Apps like GoodBudget or Envelopes that replicate physical envelopes. Assigning funds to digital categories. Explanation. Digital envelopes bring the same discipline without carrying paper cash. Activities. Simulate creating digital envelopes using an app demo. Combining tools for maximum effect. Objective, learn when and how to mix different budgeting tools. Topics covered. Using an app for tracking, a spreadsheet for planning, and envelopes for discipline. Cross-checking accuracy between tools. Explanation. No single method fits everyone, a blended approach can give best results. Activities. Scenario exercise, choose the best combination for a student, a freelancer, and a family. Maintaining tool use as a habit. Objective, keep your budgeting tools effective long-term. Topics covered. Daily versus weekly check-ins. Reviewing tool performance every 3 months. Upgrading or switching tools as needs change. Avoiding tool fatigue by keeping it simple. Explanation. The best budgeting tool is the one you'll actually use. Activities. Write a tool commitment plan for the next 90 days. Introduction to monthly budget planning. Objective, understand what a monthly budget plan is and why it matters. Topics covered. Definition and purpose of a monthly budget. Benefits, financial control, reduced stress, goal achievement. Explanation. Budget planning is a proactive process, not just tracking spending but shaping it. Activities. Group discussion, what's one thing you wish you could change about your monthly spending? Gathering financial information. Objective, learn how to collect all the data needed before starting a budget. Topics covered. Income sources, salary, side jobs, passive income. Recurring bills, rent, utilities, subscriptions. Variable expenses, groceries, transport, entertainment. Debt payments and savings contributions. Explanation. A budget can only be as accurate as the data used to make it. Activities. Fill out a financial snapshot worksheet with mock or personal figures. Categorizing expenses. Objective, organize expenses into meaningful groups. Topics covered. Fixed versus variable expenses. Needs versus wants. Essential categories, housing, food, transport, health, debt, savings, fun. Explanation. Categorization helps you spot imbalances and prioritize spending. Activities. Sort a provided list of expenses into proper categories. Choosing a budgeting method. Objective: pick the best budgeting style for the activity. Topics covered: zero-based budgeting, 50/30/20 rule, priority-based budgeting. Why we'll use a simplified structure for this exercise. Explanation: budgeting methods shape how we divide money among categories. Activities: decide on a budgeting method for your sample plan. Calculating available income. Objective: determine the real amount available for spending. Topics covered: gross income versus net income, accounting for taxes and deductions, removing irregular or one-time income from monthly calculations. Explanation: the real budget starts with net monthly income, the money you actually have. Activities: calculate net income using provided sample pay slips. Allocating money to essential expenses. Objective: prioritize needs before wants. Topics covered: housing and utilities, food and groceries, transportation, minimum debt repayments. Explanation: covering essentials first prevents financial instability. Activities: allocate sample income to essential categories using the chosen budgeting method. Allocating money to non-essential expenses. Objective: balance lifestyle spending with financial responsibility. Topics covered: entertainment, dining out, hobbies, travel and leisure. Setting realistic limits to avoid overspending. Explanation: non-essential spending makes life enjoyable, but it must fit the budget. Activities: allocate remaining funds to discretionary categories. Allocating to savings and goals. Objective: build savings into the budget, not as an afterthought. Topics covered: emergency fund contributions, retirement savings, short-term and long-term financial goals. Explanation: paying yourself first ensures you meet goals without relying on leftover money. Activities: assign a portion of income to savings and goals in your sample plan. Reviewing and adjusting the budget. Objective: check the budget for balance and practicality. Topics covered: making sure expenses do not exceed income, adjusting non-essentials if over budget, planning for irregular expenses. Explanation: a budget must be realistic, flexible, and sustainable. Activities: review the sample budget and make at least 2 adjustments to improve balance. Presenting and reflecting on the budget. Objective: share budgets, receive feedback, and reflect on the process. Topics covered: presenting your budget to peers, optional. Identifying strengths and weaknesses in your plan. Explanation: reflection helps reinforce budgeting skills and commitment. Activities: share your sample budget with the group or review privately. Write one commitment for how you will use budgeting in real life. Module 2: Understanding Credit Scores and Reports. Introduction to Credit Scores and Reports. Objective: understand what credit scores and credit reports are. Topics covered: Definitions and differences, credit score versus credit report. Why they matter for loans, housing, and employment. How lenders use them to assess risk. Explanation. Your credit score is a number, your credit report is the story behind it. Activities. Quick quiz, true or false about credit myths, e.g., checking your score lowers it. How credit scores are calculated. Objective, learn the factors that influence credit scores. Topics covered. Payment history, on-time payments. Credit utilization ratio. Length of credit history. Explanation. Knowing the formula helps you make choices that improve your score. Activities. Group exercise, guess which actions improve or hurt your score the most. Credit score ranges and their meaning. Objective, interpret what different credit score ranges indicate. Topics covered. Excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor ranges. How each range affects loan approvals and interest rates. Regional differences in scoring models. Explanation. Better scores often mean lower costs over a lifetime. Activities. Compare two loan offers for different credit scores to see cost difference. Understanding credit reports. Objective, learn what's inside a credit report. Topics covered. Personal information section. Credit accounts history. Public records, bankruptcies, judgments. Hard and soft inquiries. Explanation. Your credit report is like a financial resume that lenders read. Activities. Walk through a sample anonymized credit report. Major credit bureaus and their role. Objective, understand the role of credit reporting agencies. Topics covered. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. How they collect and report data. Why reports differ between bureaus. Explanation. Each bureau's data can be slightly different, so check all three. Activities. Create a comparison table of differences between the three bureaus. Checking and monitoring your credit. Objective, learn how to check your credit score and report. Topics covered. Annual free credit reports. Paid monitoring services. Free score tracking through banks and apps. Explanation. Regular checking prevents surprises and helps catch fraud early. Activities. Demonstrate how to request a free credit report online. Common credit report errors and how to dispute them. Objective, recognize and correct mistakes in credit reports. Topics covered. Types of errors, personal info mistakes, wrong accounts, outdated data. Explanation. Errors can unfairly lower your score and cost you money. Activities. Review a sample report with deliberate errors and identify them. Strategies for improving your credit score. Objective, learn proven methods to raise your score. Topics covered. Pay bills on time. Reduce credit card balances. Avoid unnecessary credit applications. Explanation. Small changes can lead to big improvements over time. Activities. Set a 3-month credit improvement action plan. Protecting your credit from fraud and identity theft. Objective, learn how to safeguard credit information. Topics covered: freezing and locking credit, recognizing phishing and scam attempts, monitoring accounts for suspicious activity. Explanation: a damaged credit profile can take years to fix, prevention is key. Activities: case study, how one person recovered from identity theft. Long-term credit health and financial freedom. Objective: make credit management a lifelong habit. Topics covered: building a strong credit history over decades, integrating credit management into budgeting, how good credit supports financial independence. Explanation: strong credit is a tool that opens doors to opportunities. Activities: write a credit care commitment statement for the next year. Introduction to credit types. Objective: understand the concept of credit and why different forms exist. Topics covered: definition of credit, how credit works, borrow now, repay later with terms. Overview of major types, revolving, installment, short-term. Explanation: credit is a financial tool, useful when managed well, dangerous if misused. Activities. Discussion: what's the first type of credit you ever used? Credit cards, how they work. Objective: learn the basics of credit card usage. Topics covered: credit limits, billing cycles, minimum payments, interest rates, APR, and how they are applied. Grace periods. Explanation: credit cards are revolving credit, you can borrow repeatedly up to a set limit. Activities. Break down a sample credit card statement. Advantages and risks of credit cards. Objective: understand the pros and cons of using credit cards. Topics covered: advantages, convenience, rewards, fraud protection, credit building. Risks, debt accumulation, high interest, overuse. Explanation: credit cards can be an asset or a liability depending on spending habits. Activities. Group brainstorm, list 3 ways to use a credit card wisely. Loans, an overview. Objective: understand how loans differ from credit cards. Topics covered: installment loans, fixed payments over time. Common loan types, personal, auto, student, mortgage. Interest rate structures, fixed versus variable. Explanation: loans are often for larger purchases and have set repayment terms. Activities. Match loan types to real-life scenarios. How loan interest and terms work. Objective: learn how to calculate and compare loans. Topics covered: principal, interest, loan term. APR versus nominal interest rate. Total repayment cost over time. Explanation: a small difference in interest rate can make a big difference in total cost. Activities. Calculate the total cost of a $10,000 loan at 5% versus 10% interest over 5 years. Payday loans, what they are. Objective: understand payday loans and why they are controversial. Topics covered: short-term, high-interest loans. How they are marketed. The debt cycle problem. Explanation: payday loans are fast cash but carry extremely high costs. Activities. Case study: how a $500 payday loan turned into $1,200 debt. Comparing credit cards, loans, and payday loans. Objective: learn to choose the most appropriate credit type. Topics covered: cost of borrowing comparison, purpose suitability, explanation. Each credit type serves a different need, choosing wrong can cost you more. Activities: fill in a comparison chart for the 3 credit types. Responsible use of credit. Objective: learn habits that prevent debt problems. Topics covered: borrow only what you can repay. Pay more than the minimum. Avoid high-interest options unless absolutely necessary. Explanation: responsible use protects your credit score and financial health. Activities: create a responsible borrowing checklist. Legal protections and consumer rights. Objective: understand the laws that govern credit products. Topics covered: Truth in Lending Act, TILA. Fair Credit Billing Act, FCBA. Payday lending regulations, state-by-state variations. Explanation: knowing your rights helps you avoid exploitation. Activities: discuss how laws limit payday loan practices in some regions. Building a healthy credit strategy. Objective: integrate knowledge of credit types into long-term planning. Topics covered: mixing credit types wisely, credit mix factor. Avoiding dependency on expensive credit. Explanation: a good credit strategy combines smart borrowing, timely repayment, and careful product choice. Activities: write your personal plan for using credit responsibly over the next 12 months. Introduction to responsible borrowing. Objective: understand what responsible borrowing means and why it's important. Topics covered: definition of responsible borrowing. How borrowing affects financial health and credit. Short-term needs versus long-term consequences. Explanation: borrowing is not inherently bad, the key is aligning it with your repayment ability and financial goals. Activities: group discussion: what's the difference between good debt and bad debt? Recognizing your borrowing capacity. Objective: learn to assess whether you can afford to borrow. Topics covered: debt to income, DTI, ratio and its significance. Evaluating monthly repayment ability. Accounting for unexpected expenses before borrowing. Explanation: borrowing without knowing your limits increases the risk of default. Activities: calculate your DTI ratio with sample figures. Understanding the cost of borrowing. Objective: learn how interest, fees, and loan terms impact repayment. Topics covered: APR, annual percentage rate, and compounding interest. Hidden fees, origination, late payment, early repayment penalties. How loan length affects total cost. Explanation: the true cost of borrowing is more than just the monthly payment. Activities: compare 2 loans of equal size but different terms and interest rates. Borrowing for the right reasons. Objective: distinguish between productive borrowing and harmful borrowing. Topics covered: examples of good debt, education, starting a business, buying a home. Examples of bad debt, luxury purchases on high-interest credit. The role of opportunity cost. Explanation: good debt can help build wealth, bad debt drains resources. Activities: Classify example borrowing scenarios into good or bad debt. Warning signs of debt traps. Objective: recognize early indicators of harmful debt cycles. Topics covered: paying only minimum payments, relying on one credit card to pay another, rolling over payday loans, growing debt despite regular payments. Explanation: debt traps often start small but grow quickly when ignored. Activities: identify debt trap risks from real-life case studies. Common debt traps to avoid. Objective: learn the most common high-risk borrowing practices. Topics covered: payday loans and title loans, buy now, pay later, overuse, over-leveraging credit cards, taking loans without comparing options. Explanation: many traps look attractive at first but have long-term costs. Activities: break down how a small payday loan can escalate into large debt. Strategies for responsible borrowing. Objective: build healthy borrowing habits. Topics covered: shop for the lowest interest rates, borrow the smallest amount needed, read and understand all terms before signing, keep an emergency fund to avoid borrowing for every expense. Explanation: planning ahead reduces the need for urgent and costly credit. Activities: create a personal borrowing checklist to follow before taking any loan. Debt repayment strategies. Objective: learn effective ways to manage and eliminate debt. Topics covered: snowball method versus avalanche method, consolidation loans, negotiating with creditors for better terms. Explanation: smart repayment reduces interest costs and clears debt faster. Activities: practice ordering sample debts for repayment using the snowball method. Building a debt-free lifestyle. Objective: prevent future dependence on credit for basic needs. Topics covered: budgeting to live within means, saving for large purchases instead of financing them, avoiding lifestyle inflation. Explanation: financial discipline and savings reduce the need for unnecessary borrowing. Activities: plan a major purchase, e.g., vacation, car, without using credit. Long-term financial wellness and borrowing habits. Objective: integrate responsible borrowing into overall financial planning. Topics covered: balancing credit use with savings and investments, maintaining a strong credit score for favorable borrowing terms, financial education as an ongoing habit. Explanation: responsible borrowing is part of a bigger picture, financial freedom. Activities: write a 1-year, debt-free commitment plan. Introduction: debt and credit connection. Objective: understand how debt repayment and credit building are linked. Topics covered: how debt affects your credit score, why paying off debt can improve financial freedom. Explanation: debt payoff and credit building are two sides of the same financial coin. Lowering balances can raise your score, but you also need active, positive credit use. Activity: quick reflection: how does your current debt level affect your ability to borrow? Assessing your debt situation. Objective: learn how to review and prioritize debts. Topics covered: making a debt inventory, balances, interest rates, due dates, debt to income, DTI, ratio, identifying high-risk debts. Explanation: you can't make a repayment plan without knowing the full picture. Activity: fill out a sample debt inventory worksheet. The snowball method. Objective: understand and apply the debt snowball strategy. Topics covered: paying off smallest debts first for motivation. Rolling freed up payments to the next debt. Pros and cons of this method. Explanation: the snowball method creates psychological wins that keep you motivated. Activity: arrange example debts in snowball repayment order. The avalanche method. Objective: learn how to reduce total interest costs with the avalanche method. Topics covered: paying off highest interest debts first. Why it saves more money long term. Explanation: this method attacks expensive debt first, which is mathematically optimal. Activity: compare the total interest paid in both methods using sample numbers. Consolidation and refinancing. Objective: use restructuring strategies to make debt repayment manageable. Topics covered: debt consolidation loans. Balance transfers to low-interest cards. Refinancing existing loans. Explanation: consolidation can simplify payments and lower interest, but only if spending habits change. Activity: identify when consolidation is and isn't a smart move. Negotiating with creditors. Objective: learn how to seek better repayment terms. Topics covered: asking for lower interest rates. Requesting waived fees. Hardship payment plans. Explanation: creditors may be willing to work with you if you communicate early. Activity: role-play a phone call requesting a lower rate. Building credit while paying off debt. Objective: maintain or improve credit score during debt payoff. Topics covered: keeping old accounts open for credit history length. Using credit lightly and paying in full. Avoiding missed payments at all costs. Explanation: debt payoff doesn't mean stopping all credit activity, responsible use boosts scores. Activity: create a credit use during payoff action plan. Using credit responsibly after debt. Objective: avoid falling back into debt while still building credit. Topics covered: setting a credit usage limit, e.g., 30% of limit. Paying balances in full each month. Avoiding unnecessary new credit accounts. Explanation: the habits you form after debt payoff determine long-term success. Activity: set your personal monthly credit usage limit. Monitoring credit and progress / Objective: track repayment and credit building progress. Topics covered: how to check credit reports for free. Understanding score changes over time. Celebrating debt payoff milestones. Explanation: tracking keeps you motivated and ensures errors don't damage your score. Activity: review a sample credit report and identify positive and negative items. Long-term debt-free and strong credit plan. Objective: integrate repayment and credit strategies into a lifelong plan. Topics covered: budgeting for savings and debt-free living. Using credit only for strategic reasons. Building an emergency fund to avoid future borrowing. Explanation. Debt-free living plus strong credit equals financial stability and opportunity. Activity. Write your personal 12-month debt payoff and credit improvement roadmap. Introduction to credit reports. Objective: understand what a credit report is and its role in financial life. Topics covered. Definition of a credit report. Who creates it and who uses it. How it differs from a credit score. Explanation. A credit report is a detailed record of your credit history, maintained by credit bureaus, and used by lenders to decide whether to approve you for credit. Activity. Short quiz, match, credit report versus credit score features. Structure of a credit report. Objective: learn the main sections in a credit report. Topics covered. Personal identification details. Credit accounts, trade lines. Public records, bankruptcies, judgments. Credit inquiries. Explanation. Knowing where each type of information is located makes it easier to find and fix problems. Activity. Highlight each section on a sample credit report handout. Understanding account information. Objective: read and interpret account details correctly. Topics covered. Account type: credit card, mortgage, loan. Status: open, closed, paid off, delinquent. Balance: credit limit and payment history. Explanation. Account records form the bulk of the report and heavily impact your score. Activity. Circle all accounts in good standing on the sample report. Identifying negative marks. Objective: recognize red flags that harm credit scores. Topics covered. Late payments, 30, 60, 90 days. Charge-offs and collections. Public records like bankruptcies. Explanation. Negative marks can significantly lower your score and remain for years. Activity. Mark all negative items in red on the sample credit report. Spotting errors and inaccuracies. Objective: learn to identify incorrect information that should be disputed. Topics covered. Wrong personal details, name, address. Accounts you don't recognize. Incorrect payment history. Outdated negative marks. Explanation. Even small errors can cost you points or credit opportunities. Activity. Find at least 3 errors in the sample report. Understanding credit inquiries. Objective: differentiate between hard and soft inquiries. Topics covered. Hard inquiries, lender-initiated, may lower your score. Soft inquiries, informational, no effect on score. How to manage and minimize hard pulls. Explanation. Too many hard inquiries in a short time can suggest risky borrowing behavior. Activity. Label each inquiry in the sample report as hard or soft. Evaluating credit utilization. Objective: assess how current debt levels affect the score. Topics covered. Credit utilization ratio calculation. Ideal percentage for healthy credit. Impact of maxed out cards. Explanation. High utilization can harm scores even without late payments. Activity. Calculate utilization for each credit card on the sample report. Detecting signs of identity theft. Objective: identify suspicious activity indicating fraud. Topics covered. Accounts opened without your knowledge. Unknown addresses or employers listed. Unfamiliar inquiries. Explanation. Identity theft can cause serious damage if not caught early. Activity. Highlight all suspicious entries in the sample report. Planning for disputes and corrections. Objective. Learn how to fix mistakes and negative items. Topics covered. How to dispute errors with credit bureaus. Supporting documents needed. Timelines for resolution. Explanation. The law gives you the right to correct errors, but you must act promptly. Activity. Draft a dispute letter for one identified error in the sample report. Creating a credit improvement plan. Objective. Use the credit report analysis to improve credit health. Topics covered. Addressing negative marks. Reducing utilization. Adding positive credit behavior. Explanation. A credit report review is only valuable if you take action to improve it. Activity. Write a 3-step action plan based on the issues found in the sample report. Module 3. Banking, Taxes and Financial Planning Tools. Introduction to bank accounts. Objective. Understand what a bank account is and why it matters. Topics covered. Definition of a bank account. Role in managing money securely. Difference between banking with financial institutions versus cash-only systems. Explanation. Bank accounts help keep your money safe, provide record-keeping, and open opportunities for financial growth. Activity. Group discussion. Why do people choose bank accounts over cash? Types of bank accounts. Objective. Identify the different types of accounts and their purposes. Topics covered. Checking accounts. Savings accounts. Certificates of deposit, CDs. Money market accounts. Explanation. Each account type has unique features, from easy withdrawals to higher interest rates. Activity. Compare features of different account types in a chart. Choosing the right bank or credit union. Objective. Learn how to pick the best institution for your needs. Topics covered. Banks versus credit unions. Online-only versus traditional banks. Fees, services, and convenience. Explanation. The best bank depends on your priorities: low fees, high interest, or branch access. Activity. Research and present 2 banks' pros and cons. Requirements for opening a bank account. Objective. Understand the documentation and steps needed. Topics covered. Identification, government-issued ID. Proof of address. Minimum deposit requirements. Filling out account applications. Explanation. Banks need certain information to comply with legal and security rules. Activity. Fill out a mock bank account application form. Understanding account terms and conditions. Objective. Read and interpret the fine print before opening an account. Topics covered. Minimum balance rules. Monthly maintenance fees. ATM withdrawal limits. Interest rates and how they're calculated. Explanation. Understanding terms prevents unexpected costs and restrictions. Activity. Highlight important clauses in a sample account disclosure. Depositing and withdrawing money. Objective: learn how to put money in and take it out securely. Topics covered: cash deposits, check deposits, direct deposits. Withdrawals at ATMs, in branch, and electronically. Hold times for funds availability. Explanation: different methods have different processing times and security considerations. Activity: demonstrate a mobile check deposit using a demo banking app. Managing a checking account. Objective: keep track of transactions and balances. Topics covered: writing checks and using debit cards. Online bill payment. Reconciling monthly statements. Explanation: regular monitoring helps avoid overdrafts and fraud. Activity: balance a mock checkbook using a sample statement. Managing a savings account. Objective: use savings accounts effectively for short and long-term goals. Topics covered: interest earnings and compounding. Automatic transfers from checking. Avoiding early withdrawal penalties, for CDs or restricted accounts. Explanation: savings accounts are designed to grow money, but require discipline. Activity: calculate interest earned over 1 year for different deposit amounts. Protecting your bank accounts. Objective: learn security measures to keep accounts safe. Topics covered: fraud alerts and transaction monitoring. Strong password creation and two-factor authentication. Recognizing phishing scams. Explanation: security habits protect against theft and identity fraud. Activity: spot the phishing attempt in a sample bank email. Reviewing and maintaining your banking relationship. Objective: regularly evaluate if your bank still meets your needs. Topics covered: periodic account reviews. Negotiating fees or switching accounts. Closing accounts securely. Explanation: your financial needs may change, your bank choice should change too. Activity: draft a checklist for reviewing a bank account annually. Introduction to bank accounts. Objective: set the foundation for understanding checking and savings accounts. Topics covered: what a bank account is. Why people keep money in banks instead of cash. Overview of main account categories. Explanation: bank accounts are secure financial tools for storing, managing, and growing money. Activity: group brainstorm. Why would you put your money in a bank? What is a checking account? Objective: define and explore the purpose of checking accounts. Topics covered: primary use, day-to-day transactions. Features: debit cards, checks, direct deposit. Access methods: ATMs, online banking, mobile apps. Explanation: a checking account is like your financial hub for spending and paying bills. Activity: list all ways you've seen people use checking accounts. What is a savings account? Objective: understand savings accounts and their role in financial planning. Topics covered: primary use, storing money for the future. Features: interest rates, withdrawal limits. Encouraging savings habits. Explanation: savings accounts help grow money over time while keeping it accessible for future needs. Activity: create a personal savings goal and link it to a hypothetical savings account. Key differences, purpose and use. Objective, compare the core functions of checking versus savings. Topics covered. Checking equals frequent access. Savings equals long-term storage. How they complement each other. Explanation. One is designed for regular spending, the other for accumulation and financial growth. Activity. Make a Venn diagram comparing the two accounts. Interest rates and earnings. Objective. Learn how savings accounts can generate income and why checking rarely does. Topics covered. Compound interest explained. Why checking accounts often have no or low interest. Examples of interest growth over time. Explanation. Savings accounts reward you for keeping money in them, checking accounts focus on liquidity. Activity. Calculate how much $1,000 grows in 1 year at 2% interest. Fees and restrictions. Objective, understand the costs and rules for both account types. Topics covered. Common fees, overdraft, minimum balance, maintenance. Savings withdrawal limits, Regulation D in some countries. How to avoid unnecessary charges. Explanation. Choosing the right account and using it wisely can save hundreds in fees yearly. Activity. Analyze a sample bank's fee chart and identify the cheapest account option. Security features. Objective, learn how banks protect your money. Topics covered. FDIC/deposit insurance. Fraud alerts, PIN codes, and encryption. Why both account types are equally secure. Explanation. Both checking and savings accounts offer strong protections, but vigilance is still needed. Activity. Identify security red flags and sample bank emails, phishing exercise. When to use each account. Objective, apply knowledge to real-life scenarios. Topics covered. Using checking for bills, groceries, rent. Using savings for vacations, emergencies, long-term goals. Balancing transfers between them. Explanation. Smart money management often means using both accounts in a planned way. Activity. Role play, I just got paid, how much goes into checking versus savings? Linking and managing both accounts. Objective, learn how to integrate both accounts for efficiency. Topics covered. Automatic transfers from checking to savings. Using mobile banking to track both. Avoiding accidental overdrafts. Explanation. Linking accounts helps enforce savings habits without much effort. Activity. Set up a sample auto-transfer plan based on a mock paycheck. Review and practice. Objective, consolidate everything learned. Topics covered. Summary of main differences. How they work together in financial planning. Common mistakes to avoid. Explanation. A clear grasp of these accounts helps avoid debt and encourages savings. Activity. Create a personalized account plan, which types you'd open, why, and how you'd use them. Introduction to taxes. Objective, understand why taxes exist and who pays them. Topics covered. Purpose of taxes in society. Different types, income, payroll, sales, property. Who must file taxes? Explanation. Taxes fund public services like roads, schools, and emergency services. Most working individuals must pay or file taxes annually. Activity. Group brainstorm, What public services do your taxes pay for? Understanding the W-2 form. Objective: learn what a W-2 is and why it's important. Topics covered: employer-issued forms summarizing yearly earnings and taxes withheld. Key boxes: wages, federal withholding, Social Security, Medicare. When you receive it, usually January. Explanation: the W-2 is your main proof of income for tax filing. Without it, you can't correctly complete your return. Activity: look at a sample W-2 and label each section. Reading a W-2, box by box. Objective: interpret the information on the W-2. Topics covered: Box 1, wages, tips, and other compensation. Box 2, federal income tax withheld. Boxes 3 to 6, Security and Medicare wages/taxes. State/local tax sections. Explanation: each piece of the story about your income and taxes for the year. Activity: match W-2 boxes to their meanings in a quiz form. What is tax filing? Objective: explain the tax filing process and deadlines. Topics covered: filing equals reporting income to the government. IRS, U.S., or National Tax Authority role. Annual deadlines, often mid-April in the U.S. Explanation: even if your employer already withholds taxes, you still must file to confirm your actual tax owed or refund due. Activity: create a tax filing timeline from January to April. Common tax filing methods. Objective: explore how taxes can be filed. Topics covered: paper filing versus e-filing. Using tax preparation software, TurboTax, etc. Hiring a tax preparer. Explanation: most people e-file today because it's faster, more accurate, and often free for simple returns. Activity: compare pros and cons of e-filing versus using a professional. The concept of tax refunds. Objective: understand what a refund is, and what it's not. Topics covered: refund equals the government returning excess taxes you paid. Why refunds happen, over withholding, credits. Why bigger refunds aren't always better. Explanation: a tax refund isn't a bonus, it's your own money being returned. Activity: calculate a sample refund from provided W-2 and withholding data. Situations where you owe taxes. Objective: understand why you might owe money after filing. Topics covered: under withholding during the year. Self-employment income without estimated payments. Incorrect tax form details. Explanation: owing at tax time doesn't necessarily mean you made a mistake, it may be about how much was withheld. Activity: review a scenario where a worker owes $500 and figure out why. Tax credits and deductions. Objective: learn how these reduce your tax bill or increase refunds. Topics covered: credits, reduce taxes owed directly, e.g., child tax credit. Deductions, reduce taxable income, e.g., standard deduction. How to know if you qualify. Explanation: knowing credits and deductions can save you money or increase your refund. Activity: identify which of 5 given scenarios qualify for certain credits. Avoiding common tax filing mistakes. Objective: reduce errors that cause delays or penalties. Topics covered: incorrect Social Security number. Forgetting signatures. Filing late or missing forms, like W-2. Explanation: simple mistakes can delay refunds by weeks or cause audits. Activity: Find and correct intentional errors in a sample tax return. Review and practice. Objective: consolidate learning and prepare for real-world application. Topics covered. Recap: W-2 basics, filing steps, refund process. How to stay organized for next year's taxes. Where to get help: IRS website, free clinics. Explanation: tax knowledge saves money and reduces stress during filing season. Activity: fill out a mock tax return using a provided sample W-2. Understanding financial planning. Objective: learn the basics of financial planning and why tools/apps matter. Topics covered. What financial planning is: budgeting, saving, investing, debt management. Benefits of using tools and apps: accuracy, tracking, automation. Common problems solved by these tools. Explanation: financial planning tools help you track, forecast, and control money with less guesswork. Activity: group discussion: what's the hardest part of managing money without tools? Categories of financial planning tools. Objective: identify different types of tools and their purposes. Topics covered. Budgeting apps. Expense trackers. Investment platforms. Debt payoff calculators. Explanation: no single app does everything perfectly. Choosing the right one depends on your financial goals. Activity: match each type of tool with a real-life example scenario. Popular budgeting apps. Objective: explore widely used budgeting apps and their features. Topics covered. Mint, in-app, you need a budget, pocket guard. Features: expense categorization, budget limits, notifications. Free versus paid versions. Explanation: budgeting apps automate spending tracking, making it easier to see where your money goes. Activity: compare screenshots of Mint versus in-app and note feature differences. Expense tracking tools. Objective: learn how expense trackers work and when to use them. Topics covered. Standalone trackers, e.g., Expensify. Bank integrated trackers. Manual entry versus automatic syncing. Explanation: tracking every expense builds awareness and accountability in spending habits. Activity: track your last 5 personal expenses manually and categorize them. Investment planning apps. Objective: understand how apps can help you start and manage investments. Topics covered. Apps like Robinhood, Acorns, Fidelity. Features: stock trading, robo-advisors, micro-investing. Risks and responsibilities. Explanation: investment apps make markets more accessible but require knowledge and discipline. Activity: use a free investment simulator tool to practice buying/selling stocks. Debt management tools. Objective: discover tools to help pay down debt efficiently. Topics covered. Debt payoff calculators. Apps like Debt Payoff Planner, UndayBT.it. Strategies: snowball versus avalanche method. Explanation: debt apps help you visualize your payoff journey and stay motivated. Activity: enter sample debts into an online calculator and compare repayment timelines. Retirement and long-term planning tools. Objective: learn about retirement and future-focused financial apps. Topics covered. Tools like Personal Capital, Vanguard Retirement Planner. Setting target retirement ages and income goals. Predicting inflation and investment growth. Explanation: Early planning with these tools reduces the risk of underfunded retirement. Activity. Use a free retirement calculator to estimate savings needed for a target retirement age. Integrating multiple tools. Objective. Combine apps and platforms for complete financial management. Topics covered. Linking budgeting, investment, and debt apps together. API integrations and automation. Avoiding duplicate tracking. Explanation. Integrated tools save time and provide a full picture of your finances in one place. Activity. Map out a sample all-in-one personal finance tool setup. Security, privacy, and data protection. Objective. Stay safe when using financial apps. Topics covered. Encryption and two-factor authentication. Avoiding phishing scams. Choosing reputable apps. Explanation. Financial apps store sensitive data, so security is essential to protect your identity. Activity. Review a security checklist for choosing a financial app. Hands-on practice and review. Objective. Apply knowledge to real-life financial tool selection. Topics covered. Reviewing what's been covered: budgeting, tracking, investing, debt, retirement. How to choose the right tools for your goals. Explanation. The best tool is the one you'll actually use consistently. Activity. Choose a financial goal, e.g., save $5,000, pay off debt, invest $100 per month, and select 2 tools to help reach it. Explain why you chose them. Introduction to tax filing basics. Objective. Understand what tax filing is and why documents matter. Details. What tax filing is, legal requirement, compliance, financial record. Overview of common tax deadlines. Importance of having all documents ready before filing. How missing documents can delay refunds or cause penalties. Activity. Group brainstorm. What documents do you think are needed for tax filing? List them on a whiteboard for later comparison. Income documents, wages and salaries. Objective. Identify documents related to employment income. Details. W-2 forms from each employer. Information contained in W-2, wages, tax withheld, benefits. How multiple jobs mean multiple W-2s. Activity. Show a sample W-2 and label its key sections. Income documents, self-employment and freelance work. Objective. Recognize tax documents for non-employee earnings. Details. 1,099 NEC for freelance/contract work. 1,099K for payment processing platforms, PayPal, Venmo business accounts. Keeping invoices and expense receipts for deductions. Activity. Compare W-2 versus 1,099 NEC side by side. Investment and interest income documents. Objective. Understand forms for dividends, capital gains, and interest. Details. 1,099 INT for interest income. 1,099 DIV for dividends. 1099-B for sale of investments. Activity. Review a mock 1,099 INT and highlight taxable amounts. Other income sources. Objective. Recognize less common but important income forms. Details. 1,099G for unemployment benefits. 1099 are for retirement distributions. Gambling winnings documentation, W2G. Activity. Sorting game, hand out example forms and have participants place them into income categories. Deduction and credit documents, education and medical. Objective, identify paperwork for common tax deductions and credits. Details. 1098-T for tuition payments. 1098-E for student loan interest. Receipts for qualifying medical expenses. Activity. Review a real 1098-T and explain how it supports the education credit. Deduction and credit documents, home and family. Objective, understand housing-related and dependent-related forms. Details. 1098, mortgage interest. Property tax receipts. Birth certificates or social security cards for dependents. Activity. Fill out a deduction checklist with housing and family-related entries. Proof of identity and prior year information. Objective, prepare identity and reference documents for filing. Details. Government-issued photo ID. Social Security Number, SSN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, ITIN. Prior year tax return for reference. Activity. Practice, tax folder organization, placing IDs and last year's return in a designated folder. Organizing and storing tax documents. Objective, learn best practices for organizing documents before filing. Details. Physical filing system, envelopes, folders. Digital storage, scanned PDFs, secure cloud storage. Keeping documents for at least 3 years. Activity. Create a labeled folder system with income, deductions, and ID sections. Full activity, build a tax document checklist. Objective, apply everything learned to create a complete, customized checklist. Details. Review all categories, income, deductions/credits, ID, prior year info. Double-check for missing forms. Discuss what to do if a document hasn't arrived yet. Activity. Participants build their own tax filing checklist and share for feedback. Module 4. Review and Reflection. Welcome and purpose of recap. Objective, set the stage for reflection and consolidation. Details. Why reviewing improves memory retention. How reflection strengthens long-term application. Structure of today's recap session. Activity. Quick mind dump. Learners write down everything they remember from the course without looking at notes. Big picture overview. Objective, connect individual lessons to the overall learning journey. Details. Timeline of course topics covered. How each module connects to the next. Re-emphasizing the core purpose of the training. Activity. Group creates a visual learning map on a whiteboard showing topic progression. Module by module review. Objective: revisit the first half of course modules in detail. Details: summarize 2 to 3 early modules. Highlight 2 to 3 tips or best practices from each. Discuss challenges learners faced early on. Activity: learners recall a key insight from these modules and share with the group. Consolidated list of key takeaways. Objective: create a master list of key points from the entire course. Details: combine early and late learning into one list. Categorize points into knowledge, skills, and habits. Identify which points are universally applicable. Activity: build a shared top 20 course takeaways poster. Practical tips for real-world application. Objective: turn theory into action. Details: how to apply what was learned to work, home, and personal growth. Avoiding common mistakes when applying new skills. Tips for continuous improvement. Activity: learners choose 3 tips to apply in the next week and explain why. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Objective: highlight where learners may struggle post-course. Details: mistakes past learners made. Preventive strategies. Maintaining motivation. Activity: role-play scenarios where pitfalls might occur and practice overcoming them. Personal reflection and insights. Objective: encourage self-assessment and personal growth awareness. Details: how your understanding has changed since day one. Which skills you've improved most. Which topics need more practice. Activity: journaling exercise, 3 things I've learned, 2 skills I want to master, 1 mindset shift I've had. Sharing and peer learning. Objective: benefit from others' perspectives. Details: group sharing of reflections and top tips. How peers solved problems differently. Building a post-course support network. Activity: circle discussion, each learner shares 1 tip they wish they'd known earlier. Closing recap and action plan. Objective: leave with a clear action plan and renewed motivation. Details: rapid-fire recap of all key points and tips from the session. How to keep learning alive beyond the course. Setting a personal development follow-up date. Activity: learners create a 1-page action plan for applying knowledge in the next 30 days. Introduction to financial goal setting. Objective: understand the importance of setting financial goals. Details: why financial goals matter for long-term stability. Difference between short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. Habit versus goal, understanding the difference. Activity: quick reflection, what is one money-related habit or goal you've always wanted to achieve? identifying current financial habits. Objective, assess current habits to find areas for improvement. Details, tracking spending, saving, and investing. Recognizing positive and negative financial patterns. Understanding triggers for bad habits. Activity, participants fill out a self-assessment table of their current financial behaviors. SMART Goal Framework. Objective, learn to create clear, actionable financial goals. Details, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, SMART goals. Examples of SMART financial goals. How vague goals can fail. Activity, convert a general goal, save money, into a SMART goal, save $500 for emergency fund in 3 months. Prioritizing goals and habits. Objective, determine which goals or habits will have the most impact. Details, short-term versus long-term impact. High-priority habits that build financial security. Avoiding overwhelm by focusing on 1 to 2 key goals. Activity, rank a list of sample goals/habits by importance and feasibility. Breaking goals into actionable steps. Objective, create step-by-step actions to achieve goals. Details, micro steps versus big steps. Daily, weekly, and monthly actions. Tracking progress to stay accountable. Activity, participants list 3 concrete steps for their chosen financial goal or habit. Overcoming challenges and obstacles. Objective, prepare for potential setbacks. Details, common obstacles, overspending, unexpected expenses, loss of motivation. Strategies to overcome them, automation, accountability partners, reminders. Adjusting goals when necessary without giving up. Activity, role play, what would you do if a setback occurs, and discuss solutions. Tracking progress and celebrating wins. Objective, establish methods to monitor progress and reinforce positive habits. Details, using apps, spreadsheets, or journals to track progress. Rewarding milestones without overspending. Adjusting strategies if progress is slow. Activity, create a sample tracking chart for your goal, including milestones and rewards. Reflecting on motivation and mindset. Objective, strengthen the internal motivation behind financial goals. Details, understanding the why behind each goal or habit. Building a growth mindset to embrace learning from mistakes. Visualizing long-term benefits of consistent habits. Activity, write a short personal statement explaining why this goal or habit is important to you. Creating a 30-day action plan. Objective, finish with a clear, actionable plan. Details, combining all elements, SMART goal, steps, accountability, tracking. Setting a realistic start date and checkpoints. Planning for reflection and adjustment after 30 days. Activity, each participant completes a 30-day action plan for their financial goal/habit and presents it to the group for feedback. Introduction to Financial Worksheets. Objective: understand the purpose of budgeting and credit tracking worksheets. Details: why tracking finances is essential. How worksheets simplify complex financial information. Overview of the types of worksheets being distributed. Activity: group discussion. What areas of your finances are hardest to track, and why? Overview of budgeting worksheets. Objective: learn the structure and components of budgeting worksheets. Details: income section, salary, side income, etc. Expenses section, fixed versus variable. Savings and debt repayment sections. Activity: walk through a sample budgeting worksheet and label each section. Filling out income sections. Objective: accurately record all sources of income. Details: identifying regular and irregular income. Using net versus gross income for realistic planning. Including bonuses, freelance work, and passive income. Activity: participants fill out the income section with their own or sample data. Tracking expenses, fixed costs. Objective: track variable and discretionary spending. Details: examples, groceries, entertainment, transportation. Estimating and recording accurate amounts. Using historical spending data to set realistic limits. Activity: participants estimate variable expenses for a month and enter them into the worksheet. Budget summary and analysis. Objective: learn to analyze the completed budgeting worksheet. Details: calculating total income, total expenses, and net savings. Identifying areas to cut costs or increase savings. Understanding cash flow trends. Activity: compare sample completed worksheets and identify potential improvements. Overview of credit tracking worksheets. Objective: understand the purpose of credit tracking. Details: why monitoring credit is important. Components: outstanding balances, minimum payments, due dates, credit limits. How credit scores are influenced by payment behavior. Activity: review a sample credit tracking worksheet and explain each field. Filling out credit tracking worksheets. Objective: learn to accurately record and update credit information. Details: listing credit cards, loans, and other debts. Tracking interest rates, minimum payments, and balances. Setting monthly payment targets to improve credit health. Activity: participants fill out a credit tracking worksheet with sample data. Using worksheets to make financial decisions. Objective: apply the worksheets to plan spending, savings, and debt repayment. Details: prioritizing bills and debt payments. Allocating funds to savings and emergencies. Setting realistic monthly budgets based on tracked data. Activity: create a simple monthly financial plan using both worksheets together. Review, reflection, and next steps. Objective: consolidate learning and plan for continued use of worksheets. Details: how regular updates improve accuracy and financial awareness. Tips for reviewing worksheets weekly or monthly. Encouragement to integrate worksheets into daily habits. Activity: participants write a 30-day action plan for using budgeting and credit tracking worksheets consistently.